almost here. So close. Washington's presidential primary is March 10th. Yes, I get excited about these things, okay? You should too. So by now, you should have your ballots in the mail. If you've got it, go get it, grab it. If you don't, I have a picture of it, so it's okay. There are two parts to this ballot. First, you're going to need to notice that you do have to pick a party, okay? That is required. It is a requirement if you want to vote. We're going to talk more about why it's a requirement in just a second. And then, of course, there's the actual voting portion of your ballot. Very long list there for Democrats to choose from, and just one name, Donald Trump, on the Republican side. Yeah, so there are some names you'll notice on the ballot of people who aren't in the race anymore. That's what happens when you have to print the ballot so early. I mean, you can still vote for those people if you want to. It's your choice. Just don't know why you would if they're not running anymore. Okay. I know that there are a lot of questions about these ballots and the primary process. So today what we wanted to do is call in a couple state leaders to answer some of your most pressing questions. And there's one I got that a lot of you sent me. So I'll read the question from viewer Pat. Pat says, why is it that in order to vote in the primary, you have to choose between being a Democrat or a Republican, or your vote won't count? I claim neither party, but that should not take my vote away. Well, Pat, here is the answer from Secretary of State Kim Wyman.
So remember, the presidential primary is a primary nominating process for the political parties. So they want to ensure that the people that are nominating their standard bearer, the person who's going to be on the November general ballot, are the people that are members of their political party. So that's why those oaths exist. If you want to participate in this primary, you have to say you are a Democrat or a Republican publicly.
Yeah, we also wanted to just get a party perspective on that question. Caleb Heimlich is the chair of the Washington State Republican Party.
When you're voting in the primary, you are participating in a partisan process to pick the party's nominee. And so the process per national rules is limited to people who are self-identifying as a member of one of those two major political parties, either a Republican or a Democrat. So if you want your vote to be counted, you want your voice to be heard, and your pick to become the nominee, then you have to check the box and say, I'm identifying as a Democrat, I'm identifying as a Republican, because you're participating in that private association, the political party's nominating process.
Yes, so the answer is, in case you didn't get it there, you absolutely, if you want to participate in the March 10th primary, you have to check Republican and vote on the Republican ticket, or Democrat and vote on the Democratic ticket. All right, let's do another question. Elliot, can anyone look up my vote? I want to vote without judgment.
What you're making a public declaration of is your party affiliation, but your actual vote, who you choose on that ballot that you vote for, is still a secret ballot. And, that's one of the challenges, I think, for people that choose a Republican ballot is there's one candidate on the ballot. So if you don't have any write-ins in your precinct, I'm not sure, we're trying to figure out how we're going to keep voter secrecy, actually, for that reason.
Yeah, so because if you claim the Republican Party, and people look up to see what party you claim, they're probably going to know that you voted for the president. But I imagine for most of you who are Republicans voting for the president, you're okay with that. All right, speaking of Republicans, one of you suggested that it doesn't even matter if you vote in the primary because there's only one candidate to choose from. Jarek wrote in, no point. Trump is going to be our nominee. So as I said, we heard from Caleb Heimlich, the chair of the state Republican Party. I wanted him to answer this one. First of all, he says it is important to get good voter turnout for Republicans because it gives the president's campaign momentum. He also said your vote could have another important impact.
If President Trump is going to come to Washington State, going to hold a rally, you want him to come, you want to be able to go. The best way to do that is by voting in the primary and registering your support, because that number will obviously get back to the president's campaign and he'll be able to see, oh, look, there are supporters in Washington State. So if you support the president, if you're a Republican, be sure to check that box. Be sure to get your ballot in before March 10th.
Yeah, and there was one more question, not from a viewer, but that I wanted to ask Caleb about because I've heard some rumors of this. So apparently there's a concern that some Republican voters are going to claim the Democratic Party during the March 10th primary simply so they can then vote for the candidate they think has the worst chance of beating President Donald Trump. I asked Caleb whether he thinks it's reasonable that that might happen.
I don't think it's going to happen very much. And for me, I'm a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. And so I would feel dishonest, and I would be, in fact, being dishonest if I were to check that box and say I consider myself to be a member of the Democratic Party in order to vote in their primary. And so I think honesty and the fact that it's going to be a public record for 60 days matters to people. And so we're certainly encouraging Republicans, look, if you're a Republican, check the Republican box, vote in our primary, participate through our precinct caucuses, county conventions, pick who those delegates are, have your say in the county and state party platform, but play it straight up. And I think that's by far, if anybody does try and cross over, it's going to be a very small fraction of the population.
Play it straight up, he says, and that's coming from the head of the state Republican Party. All right, our next viewer question is an interesting one because it's something that is likely to happen to Democratic voters who decide to fill out their ballot as soon as it comes in the mail. I know a lot of you like to go sit down, fill it out, be done with it. But as Elise points out, what if the candidate I vote for drops out before March 10th? Can I have another ballot?
Once you mail your ballot in or put it in a drop box, you have officially voted, and there's no way to undo that or change what you voted for. So if you have any hesitation, I would say wait till closer to Election Day.
Yeah, and that sets us up for really one of the biggest decisions facing at least Democratic voters in the March 10th primary, besides, of course, who you're going to vote for. That's the biggest decision. But if you're a Democratic voter, there's one big thing that might be standing in the way of getting your ballot in early, and that big thing is Super Tuesday, a pretty big thing. So Super Tuesday is March 3rd. It's arguably the most important day of the primary process when all of these states like California, Texas, Minnesota, they're all voting on that day. So a lot can change in the race on Super Tuesday, including the possibility that some candidates decide after Super Tuesday happens that they're going to drop out of the race. So here's the question. If you're a Democrat, should you wait to fill out your ballot until after March 3rd? So this is what the state Democratic Party told me in an email. I'll read it for you. They said, our stance as a state party is that we don't believe it's our place to tell anyone what they should or shouldn't consider when casting a vote. We just encourage every Democrat in Washington state to cast a ballot in the presidential primary. And while the Republican Party doesn't really have this problem, Chairman Heimlich says if he were a Democrat, he probably would wait to vote.
If I were a Democratic voter, I would wait and see because obviously candidates may change. Some candidates may rise to the top. Candidates may drop out and not even be running anymore. So if you vote now, there's a chance that you're wasting your vote. So if I were voting on that side, I would probably wait until after that Tuesday. You'd still have a week to get your ballot filled out and sent in.
Yeah, and the key is obviously not waiting too long where you miss the voting deadline. But at the end of the day, listen, it is 100% up to you. If you are really passionate about your candidate, you're going to cast your vote for them no matter what, well, it's your vote. Do with it what you please. The most important thing we want to stress is that you vote. Okay? Fill them in.